children of the world are going back to schools again for this beginning of the year, while in Gaza, which is the most dangerous place in this world ever, according to the UNICEF report, we are not going back to schools. I feel very, very sorry for their future because there is no education. There is no normal, regular education for them till now.
Asma Mustafa has not been spared from the horrors of the war. She's a highly accomplished English teacher in Gaza.
I'm the Global Teacher Award winner 2020, the best teacher in Palestine 2022. I was displaced from the north of Gaza to the south 8 times.
The first time she was displaced, Asma was forced to seek refuge at an UNRWA shelter. She was then displaced to the south of the Strip in a tent in Rafah, then another tent in Khan Yunis, and another tent in Deir al-Balah, and eventually to Nusayrat camp, also in a tent in central Gaza.
The children of Gaza have lost their right to education since the 7th of October 2023 till now, as the schools closed their gates. There is no education anymore in Gaza since then. My students always tell me that they miss their schools, their friends, their teachers. I do too. That's why I launched my initiative in the 4th of November last year, which is pure educational initiative. I called it A Story Every Day.
Apart from the lives, the homes, the hospitals, and infrastructure wiped out in 11 months of war, education has also become a distant memory for thousands of students. And the classrooms they once learned and played in have become a place of fear, where they found shelter from bombardment, and sometimes didn't. About 186 schools have been severely damaged or completely destroyed in Gaza. More than 92% have sustained some damage, with a third of UN-run schools having been directly hit. Children have been without an education for a whole year, and they're now about to miss a second year. More than 10,000 students and at least 400 teachers have been killed since October last year. Higher education has not been spared either, with all of Gaza's universities either destroyed or damaged, depriving over 88,000 men and women of pursuing their degrees, some just a semester away from graduation. And it's not just about the sheer scale of the damage, which can theoretically be rebuilt. Many of Gaza's intellectuals and academics have been killed, and notable educational landmarks have been completely erased. Human rights groups are calling this scholasticide, or educide, the complete wipeout of education. This is Beyond the Headlines, and I'm your host, Nada Al-Tahir. This week, we look at the impact of Gaza's decimated education sector and how this could have consequences for generations to come.
I decided to be the school for my displacement children around me when their schools were off. I decided to be their books when their books were burned. I decided to be their pens when their pens were broken. I decided to be, the educational process as long as I am alive.
In the absence of formal schooling, Asma is using her initiative to bring displaced kids some form of learning and some semblance of normalcy, despite the unprecedented conditions they're surviving in.
I gather my students around me every day in the displacement place I am in order to tell them a story. The story is full of morals, teaching them life, teaching them lessons in life, principles, how to deal with hard situations. I also teach them, by critical thinking. I want them to think in solving their problems. I mainly want my students to jump, to dance, to sing, to perform dabka, to hold on their pens, to write, to read, to draw, to paint, to color the paintings in the papers. I want them to speak about what happened to them. I want them also to tell stories to each other. I want to make a collaborative, friendly community full of love and positive emotions, among the children. Because this way, I think I teach them life, and I want them to do the same when they go back to their tents with their families. I want them to be leaders in their communities. I want them to be full of positive emotion. I want to take them away from the war, the sounds of rockets, bombs everywhere. I want them to forget a little bit, for a while, the war, to come back to the normal life as if we are pretending to have a normal life. It's a kind of trying still.
But even a tented school needs supplies, the basics, a chalkboard, some chalk, pencils and papers. Getting everything has become a massive challenge. And even when they are found, they're multiple times the price they once were before the war, much like everything else in Gaza, since Israeli authorities imposed an extremely restrictive blockade since October 7 that has stopped aid and goods and even medicine from coming in. And it's not just material obstacles. There's also the unprecedented trauma that children continue to endure and the psychological damage that educators and experts have to undo.
I think the children of Gaza need time to recover psychologically, and they need time even to breathe again, to hold on their pens again. They need time to be able to write again. And I think the official responsible specialists of education in Gaza and outside Gaza, not only Gaza Strip, would have much to do. They need to work harder and harder to rebuild the psychology of children of Gaza again.
It's not just the children that are scared and losing sleep every night. Parents are terrified too about their children's futures. Asma says they're aware that this war, even when it's over, will have lifelong consequences.
Once I remember a mother cried much when I visited her looking for the children in the tent. You know, she was crying because she simply said, "Where are you, teachers? Where is the education? I'm so scared to lose my son. He now works with his father. He's just 9 years old. Can you imagine? He may never go back to schools again." I felt pity towards her and towards like hundreds and thousands of mothers like her.
Asma has dedicated herself to her cause in doing everything she can given the circumstances. Other initiatives like hers have sprung up across the Strip too, to address the need for children to feel slightly normal again. But she makes clear that this is not a substitute for formal education.
We are just providing them with what is called like first aid education. It's exactly just like what is happening in medicine. We make first aid till we come back to schools again. That will help teachers to continue with those little kids an easier way. But it's not going to be an easy mission.